Are you tired of trying to identify supply and demand zones manually in your trading? Looking for an easy tool that does the hard work for you? In this video, I'm excited to share a free supply and demand zone indicator for ManHedger 5 that will help you pinpoint these crucial zones more easily and effectively. Supply and demand zones play a huge role in price action trading, and being able to identify them accurately can be a game changer for your strategy. Today, I will walk you through how this indicator works, how to download it, and how to make it part of your trading strategy. Stick around until the end because I will also show you some important tips on how to test the indicator and tweak it to match your trading style. Let's dive right in. So let's start with a quick question. Why are supply and demand zones so hard to describe? Well, supply and demand zones are widely used by forex traders, but the truth is they are often very subjective. Many traders identify these zones differently based on their personal approach. That's why you rarely see two trading gurus marking the exact same zones. The lack of a clear mathematical definition makes it difficult to program these zones as well. But with my indicator, I have created an objective, consistent way to calculate them, and I will show you exactly how. Let's take a look at how the indicator works. The whole idea behind the indicator is based on my previous support and resistance indicators. Essentially, support levels are where the price has previously bounced upwards, and the resistance levels are where it has bounced downwards. But instead of just plotting individual levels, we are grouping these levels together into zones. For example, if multiple support levels are clustered close to each other and the price rises in between them, that area becomes a demand zone. On the flip side, if several resistance levels form close to each other and the price falls between them, we have a supply zone. Here's a key detail. The indicator does not use an indicator handle like most other indicators do. Instead, it creates chart objects, which are rectangles representing the supply and demand zones on the chart. This makes the tool more visual and flexible, but keep in mind that this also means the indicator repaints. It adjusts the zones as more data becomes available. This happens because the zones are only confirmed after a certain number of touches at the key price level. For example, once a price level is touched twice, the zone is formed, but it can act as a third turning point. That is basically the idea behind the indicator. Keep this in mind while trading because some of the zones might be adjusted or removed as more data becomes available. But the best part of this indicator, if you ask me, is that this is completely free. You can download it right now on ManHedger 5. Just head over to the market section, type in supply and demand zone, and it's all yours at no cost. Why pay for something that you can get for free and that works just as well, if not better? After downloading, go to the Indicators Market section and you will find the Supply and Demand Zone indicator ready to be used. Now let's get to the fun part, using the indicator. You will notice several input parameters that you can customize to fit your strategy. First, the number of zones allowed at a given time. You can set the maximum number of zones that can be displayed at the same time with this input parameter. By default, it's set to 3, but you can adjust it. With the second input, you can set how many historical zones you want to see on the chart. If you only need the supply and demand zones now and in the near past, you can easily save some memory if you set this to a low value. You can also set the amount of bars the indicator should calculate with in the initialization phase. If this number is too high, the initialization may take longer. First, the supply and demand zones are calculated for the latest candles, and after that for the number of bars you have specified. With the period and overlook input parameters, you can define how the support and resistance levels are calculated. If the highest high of the last 20 bars is the same as the highest high of the last 30 bars, a resistance level is there. You can tweak these to change how the indicator identifies these levels. Later on, these levels will be used to create supply and demand zones. You can also define how many support and resistance levels are compared to each other. If this parameter is 10, for example, the indicator takes the last 10 support and resistance values into account, and if there is a similarity between some of the supports from the last 10 supports, the indicator creates a demand zone. The sensitivity determines how strict or relaxed the zones are. The higher the sensitivity, the closer the two levels must be to form a zone. If you want stricter zones, set this value higher, but for wider zones, set it closer to 0. The allowed input interval for this parameter is between 0 and 1. With the design settings, you can fully customize the visual representation of the zones. You can adjust the colors of the supply and the demand zones and decide whether you want them filled in or outlined. Additionally, you can enable the display of support and resistance levels with arrows. This can help you better understand the indicator's mechanism and how these levels are formed. Another cool feature is that you can choose to display the distance from the current price to the nearest supply or demand level directly on the chart. This way, you will always have a visual reference of how far the price is from an important zone, allowing you to plan your trades better. If you would like to be alerted when the price approaches a supply or demand zone, you can easily set this up with the alert settings. By setting the alert allowed parameter to true, the indicator will notify you as the price gets close to these zones. You can also specify how far from the zone you want the alert to be triggered, giving you the flexibility to act in advance when the price is approaching these key levels. Initialization can take some time, but after a while, you will see the boxes representing supply and demand zones displayed on the chart. The larger the number of bars for the calculation, the longer it might take to initialize, so be patient. My recommendation is that you should test the indicator in the strategy tester. This lets you experiment with the parameters and build your strategy. You will get a feel for how the indicator repaints and how these zones appear over time. The important thing is to customize the settings to match your trading style. I personally like to use tighter zones, so a higher sensitivity, and I don't see the point in comparing very old supports to the latest one, so the number of supports I calculate with is less than 10. Even though the indicator repaints and it takes a little time to initialize, it's still a powerful tool for identifying key levels where the price is likely to react. And the best part is, it's free. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and do not hesitate to ask any questions in the comments below. I am also curious about which settings worked the best for you, so feel free to share your experience in the comments. See you in the next one. Peace.